Yeah. Yeah, I think
Not
they
like
got
the
good
Nationals.
momentum.
We have a lot of improvement.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's just nice to have a winning team for once. Like the stadium was pretty full mostly for most
yeah,
of the season, which was awesome. Like that, I moved to Baltimore in 2017, and most of the games that I have been to were maybe half full.
yeah.
So it's a cool season.
So Karan, where are you from? You in Baltimore as well?
Oh yeah, I'm in Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh. Okay.
Yeah.
Another
That is a
good
very
baseball football
expensive,
town.
Karan, that's a very expensive looking virtual apartment behind you.
Lots of hard work.
So who do you work for, Karan?
So I work with a healthcare firm here in Pittsburgh. It's called Highmark Health.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this group is sort of a little bit mid-Atlantic, little bit of Pennsylvania, little bit of
We're
Maryland.
we're Baltimore centric, and
Okay.
that can kind of envelop, uh, a good number of a good bit of the Beltway area.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the DC group and the Baltimore group often have overlap, which we have embraced. We've done some co-meetings in the past, and we encourage folks to attend both if they're in the DC metro region. But we're more Baltimore centric than anything, but that does sort of have a a buffer to it because Maryland is
Yeah.
a weird shape and we're all so close together.
Maryland is a weird shape. One time I took my son from the Eastern Shore and he's going to go to Deep Creek Lake for a baseball tournament. I thought, how long? It can't be that far. It is a long, long way. Yeah.
That's right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the meeting. We're going to give folks a few minutes here to continue logging in before we get started. But thank you for joining us.
There's the relaxing music. All right.
Sherry, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you can see my screen, right?
Mhm.
Okay. I'll just go through a few opening slide before we have our session. So welcome everyone. This is our first virtual meeting of the year. For those of you who don't know, this Baltimore Tableau User Group is led by three leaders, Prem, who cannot join us today. I'm Sherry. I'm a BI manager from Blend 360. I'm also a Tableau Forum ambassador. That's why we will always have a Tableau doctor session at the end if anyone wants to bring their Tableau questions to the session. Of course, don't show any confidential information if it's work related, but I'm happy to solve any problems you might have towards the end of the session. And then Ryan is also on the call. Ryan, do you want to share a few things about yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Ryan Kreisberg. I'm also a Baltimore TUG co-leader. I've been using Tableau since 2014. Also happy to, if there's multiple people interested in a doctor session, I'm happy to help out with that. Very excited to hear our presenters today and get rolling.
Great. So something new about this group, if you haven't joined our linking group, feel free to search it, and we will always post latest updates about the event here. And we're trying to create a space where for people in the region to share if there's any job openings, anyone's looking for opportunities, any local events that's relevant to Tableau or DataViz, feel free to use this group to share. And then we're actively looking for Tableau user group speakers in 2024. So if you want to be a presenter, feel free to reach out to either Ryan or myself, and we welcome either virtual or in-person presenters for next year. And then some of the Tableau updates. I noticed 2 days ago, Tableau released the latest version, 2023.3. So if you haven't read their official updates, feel free to check it out. There are a lot of features they're updating there, covering from prep, server, developer tool like API updates, and then some of the desktop updates. So since I am pretty hands-on in desktop, I just gonna quickly share two features I like the most. One is this line patterns that they added for this latest version. I think it's a pretty simple feature, but it's just previously you can't believe you cannot create like dotted line in Tableau. Now they're giving you more line patterns. You can have solid line and dotted line plotted in the same worksheets now. So this is just a simple addition for the line pattern you can use in Tableau. And then the second one I really like is the unified tooltips. Essentially now if you hover on any of the pills in the worksheet, you're able to see more information. So if you're seeing a red pill, it can tell you in a short sentence what's going on, what is the potential error. Or if you hover on a calculated field, you can see how it's being calculated, the formula used in that pill rather than search on the left-hand side panel to find the name and then trying to understand what is the calculation used. So I find this can be a very nice feature as you are taking over someone else's workbook and trying to quickly understand what are the key fields you're supposed to use. So these are the features I like the most, but highly encouraging everyone to just search and then check out all the new features they are releasing in this latest version. Another big update is probably the IronViz, one of the biggest visualization competition. So this month, October, we still have about 6 days left, is what we call the qualifier contest. So you can, based on this year's theme, love, you can create a visualization and then you can post it as one of the qualifier work, and then there will be a panel of judge that will rate your visualization, and then I think the final like tops 3 will be able to go to the Tableau conference next year and then build a visual on stage in 20 minutes. So it would be really cool if any of you are interested in participating in this year's IronViz. If you haven't started, it might be a little bit tight, but still 6 days if you have any great ideas that you want to visualize around the theme love this year. And then I like to share a local event that is organized by Data Visualization Society. Amanda, originally she would join us in person to share a few words about this Information is Beautiful Awards event that will happen in November 3rd. There's both virtual and in-person options, but the in-person one is actually in Baltimore at the Maryland Institute College of Art. So because Amanda cannot join us today to share details, she did give us a recording. So I'm gonna quickly play the recording where she gave more context about what the event does. And then hopefully if any of you find it interesting, you can Google it and find more details there. So I'm gonna play this recording here. Please let me know if you cannot hear the audio.
Hey everyone, my name is Amanda McCulloch and I'm the Executive Director for the Global Data Visualization Society. I apologize for not being there live in person with you today, but I'm at the exciting pediatrician's visit for the last appointment of the day after a day of being homesick with a sick preschooler. So apologies to not be there in person, but thrilled to have the opportunity to share a bit about DVS and about some upcoming events in Baltimore happening next week that I hope you'll join us for, as we still have a few tickets available. So if you're not familiar with the Data Visualization Society, we're born out of this idea that data visualization can be a lot of things. It can be a skill you use in your work. It can be your full-time job, similar to working in tools like Tableau. And as we think about the world of what data visualization designers do, there are so many different kinds of roles that you can see have data visualization features. From being a researcher, communicating data visualizations, communicating your findings with data visualizations, over to being a graphic designer specializing in infographics, down to more business intelligence. And as we think about these various different roles, it can be hard to find a home that brings all of those different groups together in a meaningful way. And so as the Data Visualization Society, we think about this idea that to design more effective visualizations, no matter what tool you're using, you need to invest in some foundational skills. And we benefit as a community when we actually talk more about what these shared foundations are. And we find ways to connect the dots between different people in terms of what they want to know. As we think about what that functionally looks like inside of DVS, we want to nurture the data visualization community. We want to find ways to go ahead and celebrate the great work happening in data visualization through things like our Nightingale journal that you may have read a couple articles in, that's now 3.5 years running, 4 years running, and has over 1,000 different authors who published with us, as well as a print edition. The Outlier Global Data Visualization Conference, which will be announcing dates and locations at the upcoming events in Baltimore, so stay tuned. But if you're interested in our past conference content, all of the recorded talks are all available on our YouTube channel, so you can find all of the past Outlier talks on our playlists. And then the Information is Beautiful Awards, another way of celebrating amazing data visualization work. If you're not familiar with what the Information is Beautiful Awards are, they're a space that has now been running for 10 different seasons that allows you to see great works in data visualization, all curated in one place underneath the entry showcase. You can go back and search back as far back as 2012 in terms of great works that were shortlisted or were winners underneath a variety of different categories. So if you're looking for data viz inspiration, it's a great place to go to, and it's a great place to celebrate the great work happening. They did start out underneath the leadership of the Information is Beautiful team and David McCandless, and after a hiatus for 2 years, came back underneath the leadership of DVS last year. Then last, we want to focus on advancing the industry. So how do we go ahead and advance the data visualization industry and community? And that's where bringing together different groups of people, from folks using tools like Tableau and these great communities that Tableau has, over to working with other sectors and areas and tool groups that allow us to have more in-depth conversation around things like industry standards, ethics, and other sticky conversational topics. So as we go ahead and we think about what that looks like and means, that means we've amassed a really large community of people. We have over 144,000 followers on LinkedIn. We have over 30,000 members across over 160 countries around the world. And we're proud to be a space that brings people together from so many different backgrounds to connect, collaborate, and share knowledge about data visualization. We are a professional membership association. So think of us like, say, if you work in business intelligence and you're a member of a dedicated group focused more on business analytics, or if you're in public health, like I am, and you're a member of the American Public Health Association. We're in that space for data visualization. So we hope that you'll join us and get more involved, whether it's as a new member or getting more involved if you're a member already. One of the reasons I wanted to pop in for this specific session of the TUG was to flag up that next week we're hosting two big events. One is the Day of Inspiration, an entire day of shortlisted talks about the making of shortlisted works for this year's Information is Beautiful Awards. That's happening all day this November 3rd. Here, wait 1 second, I'll be right back. Friend, as we wrap up we'll have a little friend as we wrap up our recording today. So coming up next Friday, we have the Day of Inspiration, the making of shortlisted works. There's folks talking all about how they made amazing shortlisted projects, plus some great keynote speeches. Two of those folks, Jack Heineman and Kevin Florwidge, both are talking about Tableau projects that were shortlisted. So it's a great day of mini conf type sessions to learn from and hear from. Tickets are really inexpensive and are available both in person and virtually. And then coming up on Saturday is a brunch event where we're going to celebrate and name the various different winners for this year's IIB Awards. And so if you want to join us for brunch and for a big celebration of great work in the data viz space, we hope you'll join that party happening all at the Maryland Institute College of Art. And so we'll be over at the MICA campus for both of these different events. So if you're interested in going ahead and getting involved and attending those events, would love to say hi in person. You also can find ways to connect and get involved with us by writing for Nightingale, our journal. And there's a great article all about how to do so on the Nightingale publication. And we would love to have you become part of this professional association for data viz. We welcome people across tech stacks, tools, and subject areas. And I'm excited to continue to connect with more of the Tableau folks and more of the Baltimore data visualization community. With that, I'm going to go attend to this tiny little nugget, who's not the sick one today, as you might tell from her enthusiasm. Right, Penelope? And feel free to reach out anytime if you ever have any questions that I might be able to answer for you, all about DVS and our work and what we do within the data viz community. I'm just down the Beltway in Washington, D.C., and always love connecting with folks in person. Thanks a lot, and have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your TUG meeting.
That was about DVS. There's a lot of way you can engage with the organization. Also for their most recent mini conference, if you are interested, feel free to get more detail from Amanda's linking page. She's also sharing some links towards the event in our Baltimore Tableau User Group page, so you can also find information there. All right, so we are moving things around a bit. We will have a Kahoot game at the end, but we want to make sure two of our presenters get their time to present their information. So Karan, I will let you share your screen and then introduce yourself to the team.
Perfect. Yep. Thanks, Sherry. Let me share my screen. Okay. I hope everybody is able to see my screen now.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. So thanks everyone for joining in today. I'm Karan. I'm working as a digital marketing analyst with a healthcare firm here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I have around 5 years of experience working with Tableau, and I'm presenting on building an engaged Tableau community, um, especially focused on community engagement and adoption. And we'll go through some of the pointers from my experiences as a data community lead. So let's jump right into the agenda. And again, just as I said, some of my brief background. We will cover some of the pieces of, why should you care about building a community, because that's one of the questions I get a lot. We'll touch upon data literacy a bit, which I think is one of the growing fields in the data analytics space. We'll move on to stakeholder engagement, a bit about data governance, and then we will hopefully get some thoughts and Q&A in place. So let's keep moving. Okay. So as I mentioned, I have around 5 years of experience with Tableau and analytics. Before this, I have mostly worked in the test automation space. So I pivoted after my grad school here in Pittsburgh, and after that, it has been, mostly around Tableau. So I'm happy to, get connected with more folks who are, a lot more experienced in Tableau or are just starting out with Tableau. So it's always great to get connected with, fellow analysts. My most recent experience, just before my current role, was a data culture and enablement lead. And that's where I started, talking more about this particular topic, where I think data culture and enablement is one of those things where there are some discussions, but we don't often get to hear more about this particular, part of the world. Um, so moving on to why building a community is important for you. And one of the questions that I was asked is, let's say you are working, with Tableau or for that matter, some other tool, day in and day out, you are down into the weeds and you're going through all of these, level of detail calculations and things like that. So the question posed to me was, why do I have to worry about the community? So the questions that came up in my mind was, why it is important to have that strong foundation for analytics. So think about your stakeholders, who might be, in some cases, be first time Tableau users, or in some cases might be exploring Excel for the first time. So while we have been, exposed to so many different tools, a lot of people are on, on the extreme ends of the spectrum sometime, where they are not, ready to do a pivot table, for example, in an Excel. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? The idea for you is, everybody around you is a stakeholder, your team members, your client, everybody. So I think that's the part where it's very important for us to see this as a community and understand different needs for our stakeholders. So another point that I have on that slide is, the technology is always changing. So while we are lucky that, we have been a part of this community with Tableau, there are so many changes happening, especially with Chat GPT and generative AI in general, making leaps and bounds of, changes every day. A lot of those adoptions will lead to many more changes. So what I have always focused on in my discussions is that irrespective of the technology, you need to build that sense of community for people to trust each other. So that's why I end this slide on, keeping the focus on the business problem. So irrespective of, how deep you get into, let's say Tableau, it's important for us to bring back that focus on the business problems. Data literacy is where, like, it's a nice segue for data literacy for me, because as the data literacy term itself is quite wide, I would say. Different people, in terms of how much exposure they have got to this idea, will have different ideas for it. So and I'm not going to read the entire thing, but the basic idea is for people to write and communicate data in a particular context. So as I was just mentioning, there are people who are in that spectrum at different levels of data literacy. And I included a link to that workbook, and I'll share it with Sherry to share it with the team, because when I started working as a data culture and enablement lead in my last role, I found this, surprising, where a lot of us were going in with a lot of assumptions in our mind. So we needed to step back and first evaluate the needs of those teams. So we were working with marketing, we were working with finance, where a lot of those work has been done in Excel, and people are not just ready to accept, let's say Tableau in our case, to just make that transition. So I will quickly just switch to that workbook, because I think that's a nice way for us to kind of look at. And this is a link that I will share as I suggested, but Tableau has a neat link here which kind of goes through what is data literacy. But what I found very interesting is this KPI measure here about how many leaders expect employees to have basic data literacy. So all of these numbers are pretty high, where people are expected to build more on their data literacy pieces. And if you see on the extreme right, there are only 40% of employees are saying that they are provided with the data skills that they are expected to have. So there is a gap there which needs to be filled, and that's the idea. So the big takeaway from this user group meeting is that now when you go back, I want you to have a larger vision of where people are coming from, and we understand what best we can do in those situations. So this is the workbook that I was mentioning, and you can see. Let me try to maximize this. Um, so you can see there are filters and parameters that you can play around with. But I found it really interesting to see, you can compare it by department, by countries and industry to see, how high data literacy is being marked. So basic computer skills are ranked second in marketing. There's a huge, uh, a lot of those expectations come from the fact that you will deal with a lot of these Excel sheets and data every day. So you can play around with this. I found it very intriguing to find, how all of these different measures are put against each other. Um, Going back to the slide, let me back in. Sorry. Okay, yeah, this was a snapshot that I was just mentioning about. So I'll just skip this slide and going to the stakeholder engagement. And I know Sherry and the team will definitely be aware of something like this, but stakeholder engagement is the part where a lot of this community engagement happens. The user group that we are right now in is part of that engagement. So and again, like the Tableau doctor session that you'll have after the presentations, the monthly newsletters, and Tableau Online provides you a lot of tracking and utilization and licensing capabilities, which was new to me. So you can, if you're not aware, you can track how many people have viewed your workbooks on the Tableau server. So a lot of this is part of how much engagement you are getting on workbooks, because we have always heard about workbooks being made, but they are never being utilized. So a lot of these things come together and are not on the technical side of Tableau for us to keep track of. Newsletters are certainly some of those ways where I think it was greatly helpful for us, because we were just starting out for building the community, that we found a lot of people reached back out to us saying that, is there a recording that we can look at and things like that. So just wanted to touch upon that piece of the stakeholder engagement. Data governance is one of those, very similar to data literacy. I think data governance is a lot has been talked about it, but it's very hard to achieve. and depends on whether you are working in a smaller company, a mid-sized company, or a big company. So the organization that I am with right now, it's more than around 40K people. So it's very hard for us to kind of work through data governance, but at the same time it's needed. So depending on which organization I've worked with, there are centralized and decentralized form of data certification. So it's very important for us to get these buy-ins from senior executives. But these are some of the challenges which I think data literacy and community building will help you get closer to avoiding that form of data silos in your organization. Data engineering is always one of those pieces where I like to say to all my the data fellow data engineers in my team that they are the silent heroes in this, because there is a lot of requirement for the data to be correct, to be at the right time, to be optimized. So I think data engineering needs to be a center for all of these discussions, because that's where I think these silos start getting created. So always look around while you are working with your client and stakeholders, and look around your team, engage with them, and keep an eye out for is this really needed, is there a better optimized form for us to go through. And I think that was my last point. Yeah, so we can open up for questions, any thoughts, and back to you, Sherry.
Thank you, Karan. I actually have a quick question. I saw you have centralized and if you go back to, decentralized form of data certification verification, what exactly does that mean?
So we started doing that in my last role, where Tableau server allowed us to certify certain data sources. So this was our opportunity to kind of centralize everything that was put into production. And that is where I realized it's not as simple as it sounds, because different verticals have different priorities. Whenever we wanted to meet with them, they might not have enough time to go through the certification process, test it out, and things like that. And that's why I've mentioned like the centralized and decentralized form of certification. It depends a lot on where the company is in that journey. If it is just starting out, I think it's easier to do that. But as and when there are more and more discussions and more verticals, they have different priorities on their end. Yeah.
I think my other question is, as you talking about building data community, is
Mhm.
it like a similar concept? I think I also heard like building center of excellence. Uh, are they essentially
Yeah.
similar? Okay.
Yeah, it's yeah, definitely. I think it again. I think it's called, it has different terms to it. But I think larger organizations have some of these center of excellences because they are handling a lot of things. But yeah, you are right. It's pretty
Mm,
much similar to that. Yeah.
mm. And then my follow-up question is, I feel when we talk about building a community, a lot of people assuming or they are on the receiving side, so they'll be benefited from like user group, doctor session. In terms of the side of an like organizers, I'm trying to see how much effort or how big of a group do you usually see to make this engagement constantly moving forward. So you have
Hmm.
people do the maintenance, do the organization of like those office hours. How much effort does it normally take? And how do you even start a group? What kind of leadership support do you need?
Yeah, definitely. Great question. And when I joined in my last role, it was about 2 to 3 months when the team started out with Tableau. The Tableau office hours was definitely one of the things where we started. I mean, I would say like doctor session slash office hours, where we started doing that every couple of weeks. And that, I think we initially started doing weeklies. We didn't get enough participation. So there were struggles initially, but we kind of, I think, settled midway somewhere where there was enough curiosity for people to come in and see what's going on. So I would say, again, as a percentage of the number of people who are utilizing Tableau, we were at somewhere around 150 licenses, but we would get around 15 or 20 people joining in every couple of weeks at max. And slowly, I think it got to a point where we were having once a month user group sessions like this one, where about 20-25 people would join in. So I used to joke around about that this was a success for us, because we got a lot of engagement and we started discussing about Tableau alerts, Tableau metrics, and different, down to the weeds of, what new features are coming in. So I think that was, yeah, overall my experience with it. Yeah.
When it comes to like leadership support or your measures to say like we're building kind of like a engaging community, what are some of the KPIs you track?
Yeah, great question. And I forgot about the leadership question that you asked. I think that was a big role that was played by, the director of BI enablement. I think we constantly pushed through, Slack communities or, other groups where we could find at least some percentage of Tableau users. So, we were constantly posting about things. And I think newsletters was one of the things that we started out later, but that kind of became a good point for us to measure how many. So because we were doing all of this in, I think it was one of the platforms where we could see how many people have clicked on newsletters, and then we could also map out, how many people are joining the user group sessions. So we did some form of, I would say a very amateur correlation analysis on, are we getting enough hits on our newsletters? So we were actively tracking that every week to see, are we getting enough engagement in numbers of people coming in? Yeah.
I think that's all my question. Does anyone else wants to ask Karen questions?
Okay. Sorry, I thought there was somebody, or was that just okay? Perfect. Yep.
Okay.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah, if anyone have questions after the session, feel free to reach out to Karan through LinkedIn. For next session, we have David Small. David, would you like to share a few words about yourself and share your deck?
Sure would. Thank you. I'm assuming that you can see the deck at this point.
Yes.
Okay. And let me go ahead and turn the camera on so you can see my ugly mug. Yeah, so well, first of all, thank you so much for invitation to present. And I've been in this business, as you can tell by my gray hair, for many years, probably before it was called business intelligence, certainly before it was called data analytics, and before Tableau was around. So have some insights that I think hopefully will be helpful for you. And really, the topic that I'll be talking about today is, data analytics, right? We always think about all the nice, pretty things and the dashboards and so on, but really, what could possibly go wrong, right? So that's sort of the topic that I like to talk about and bring some things to bear and really see and maybe broaden your thinking in terms of what you're thinking about when you're developing your analytics and your dashboards and driving the business for the organization. So the agenda for me for this presentation is I'd like to take and try to create a little bit of a broader view of what can happen in data analytics, and then sort of boil it down to Tableau testing as well. So I do have some industry examples of what happens when bad data enters your environment and what can be the cost. I'll go through 8 Tableau test cases that, as part of Data Gaps, we've been in this business for 10, 15 years, and what we've seen, what our Tableau customers always ask of us, and what we should have in our technology to help test. And I'll go through some of those test cases and also expand on where we're headed there. I also have examples of our customer base and what they're doing in terms of regression testing and dashboards, report data testing, and also what they're doing with AI, and a number of things we'll talk about there. And then talk about the place of testing in data migration. When you do, we see and we field a ton of questions regarding migrating from on-prem to Tableau and Snowflake, as an example. And, how can you help escalate that process and gain value out of that by automating testing and a variety of things like that? Just a rhetorical question for everybody is, you go through this vigor of testing your applications. You have all DevOps. You spend a lot of time, a lot of money on DevOps and testing your applications. And I've yet to find companies that think about or really apply that same amount of vigor on their dashboards and reports, on their data analytics. And underneath the covers, it's all data. Data generated or collected in your applications, and now data flowing through your pipelines. And I'm always curious that people aren't using that same vigor to do testing of the data analytics. In our view, in my view, there are a lot of points of failure in data analytics. And we have a philosophy that says the sooner you find the issue, the less it costs. So a shift left mentality. But many points of failure start with the ingestion of data. And it really starts with the applications that you're bringing data from. Are those applications, they tested, but are people filling out the information properly, correctly? And is that information being delivered to your analytics pipeline? There's all kinds of issues that you can have with flat files, with JSON, and all kinds of issues with data ingestion. So that's an area that we'll talk about a little bit later on. But how do you make sure that the data that you're bringing into your data analytics platform is appropriate, is correct, and so on? You bring the data in, and now is in a landing zone. So there's been a couple of data movements. You begin to do enrichment. You move that to a curated zone and ultimately into the warehouse. And there's a lot of, again, moving parts in terms of where data anomalies can come into this environment. It could be your ETL process. It could be as simple as, hey, the data wasn't ready and I picked up a file that only had a partial load. There's all kinds of things along those lines. Then it gets moved into the data warehouse, into data marts, data lakes, and so on. And again, there's a lot of opportunity for data anomalies to come in at that particular point. And now we're sitting and we're developing dashboards, and we're completely happy that, hey, I've got my data. I trust that my data has gotten here properly. And now there are still issues that can come up with developing and continuing to run your dashboards and your reports, either through regression, update of software, and so on. So that's sort of just to set the stage. In my view, in our view, data testing isn't just at the end result with the Tableau reports and dashboards. you really have to test that journey through the enterprise. So what could possibly go wrong? Here's a simple dashboard. It's got some graphics, it's got sliders, it's got metrics. These reports and metrics could be coming from different locations, could be fed from different locations, different databases. What could possibly go wrong once you've got your dashboard up and running? Well, there's a lot that can go wrong. And a lot of it's driven by the number of dashboards, the data elements, and the reports that you have, and those need to be verified. We all know that the reason that the BI adoption sometimes fails, one of the major reasons is trust in data. So if your dashboards provide information that isn't accurate, isn't trustworthy, then you lose a certain amount of adoption there. So you have to be able to test this and determine that, yes, I am making decisions based upon trustworthy data. So along with those things, there's upgrades to the application itself, or an upgrade to the Tableau software. So when you get a new release, you need to test it. And some of the people that work with us say that may take quite a bit of time. So they use us to drive down the time and the cost of doing that testing. If you change information, metadata, you change a length, something as simple as a length, sometimes will mess up your dashboards and so on. So problems in the data, ingestion and ETL processes, those are all contributing factors to how your dashboards and your reports can reflect inaccurate information. So it increases the cost, it gives you inaccurate insights. I thought I would bring up a couple of ideas, but first, before that, the cost of poor data management is sometimes when you're reporting in a governance type of a situation, if you report information incorrectly, you get fines. And those fines can sometimes be millions of dollars. We have a university that when they report information, they report outside the university, and if it's inaccurate, that damages their reputation. It could be that you're getting inaccurate analytics, you're wasting time. And so the effect of poor data management throughout that entire pipeline and then being consumed in your data analytics platform can be very costly. Now, Unity is an organization, and they're known for their real-time 3D content platform. And they have a tool that's designed to aid game developers in targeting player acquisition and advertisement. Well, what happened with them, in an example of poor data coming into your enterprise and you not recognizing it, is they ingested bad data from one of their largest customers. And they were building out a machine learning algorithm, and they trained that machine learning algorithm based upon this bad data coming from that large customer. So what happened was, as a result of that, their ML algorithms weren't accurate. They had to redo all of that, and they figured that they had a loss of approximately $110 million from this what seemingly seems like a minor mistake. Their shares dropped by 37. So, that's a significant horror story with bad data coming into, in this particular case, your machine learning algorithms and being further processed in analytics. There's another one. Equifax had over 300,000 individuals where their credit score was off by 20 points or more. So they were underreporting their credit score, and this impacted their interest rates and whether they could get loans or not. It ends up that with Equifax, they had to agree to a $700 million settlement after being charged with negligent security practices. Now, in both these cases, you think about, okay, how could you have caught these particular problems? And back in 2017, maybe not as easily, but now with observability and being able to observe that bad data coming in, and the fact that the 300,000 individuals' credit scores had dropped by 20% or more, observability in data testing would have found those kinds of things. It would have found that prior Unity large company giving you bad information. Observability would have found that, but that's just one way that you help identify and avoid some of the issues. Now, in terms of Tableau and BI validation and testing your dashboards and the reports, there are about 8 different types of procedures and things that we work on and that our customers bring to us and say, hey, we'd like to test and automate tests for these particular things. One is to maintain report integrity. Every time you do an upgrade, I need to be able to run upgrade tests. We have customers that have 50,000 reports and 20,000 users. And when they do an upgrade, they have to test a large version of that. And without automating that test, it was taken 2 to 3 months. Now, they automate those tests, and that cuts down on the cycle and saves them a tremendous amount of money. So an upgrade test plan, you upgrade Tableau, you take a prior snapshot of some of the reports and dashboards, and then you compare it to the upgrade, and you get a delta from that. And that's an automated test for upgrade testing. And regression testing, the same type of thing. You also, at times, want to validate that your reports are valid against data itself. So, when you render a graph or a report or a dashboard, there's data underneath that helps you render that dashboard. You can grab that data and you can take that data and then compare it back to other sources, the source data that it came from by SQL or a variety of other ways, and you can validate that report data is accurate. The stuff that we use to render the report compares favorably and exactly to a SQL query back to the source data. So that's another type of testing plan that a lot of our customers use. And then compare against reports. So you can not only take information from a report and compare it back to the source, but you can compare the data from output of 2 reports. And you get the delta of, hey, are these 2 reports using the same information, and is it accurate? Should it be? And give you a testing for that ability as well. Also, the ability to do report based on business, validate reports based on business rules or functional testing. So, there's all kinds of business rules that are in your ETL processes, but also they flow through all the way through to your analytics. And some metrics are so important, you want to validate them every step of the way. And so you can do functional testing on metrics or reports or data, and you can say that, hey, revenue can only be between certain amounts. This field can't be null. All these kinds of rules can be written directly against the data that is rendering your dashboards, and you can do a lot of verification at that point in time. People want to be able to do security test plans. So they want to make sure that the security model they have in place is being working, and that people aren't gaining access to data they shouldn't be able to gain access to. And then making sure my reports are accessible. So if I want to put more load on a machine, I've got 50 more users, can I test the stress on that machine? Or if I have SLAs that say I need reports to run within a particular period of time, how do I do that? Can I test to make sure that I'm meeting my SLAs, because my end users are expecting me to be able to do that? And then finally, the 8th test plan that our customers use a lot of and come to us for is catalog test plan. So we take the JSON or XML from Tableau. We get all kinds of information about the position of graphs, the fonts used, the colors, all those kinds of things. And we can help determine, hey, if you have a particular brand that you want to be used in all of your reports. Is it being done? All those kinds of things. Are the filters working properly? And so on and so forth. So these are the tests that a lot of our customers use in making sure that their Tableau environment is running efficiently, but more important, that people are able to make decisions based upon trusted data. So one of the examples, again, is regression testing or upgrade testing. So when you upgrade, what people do is they take a snapshot, as shown on the left, before the upgrade, and then run the same procedure after the upgrade. And what we show is sort of hard to tell here, but all of the areas that are highlighted in red are areas where the text isn't the same between the two runs. There's also the ability to, this is at a textual level, but also you can see that at the graphical level, we actually do a pixel to pixel comparison between the graphs, and we'll show you if anything is off. So did that upgrade cause some kind of anomalies in the new environment, and do you need to take corrective action? We also began to do, and this is something fairly new for us, report observability and profiling. So observability, most people think of it as data's coming into the enterprise. I'm doing observability, but we do that, but also the observability of the data that's being consumed in your data analytics platform can help bring out a number of types of problems that might exist. So there's two ways that we do that in terms of observability. So you drag a worksheet from your Tableau environment into an environment. And in this particular case, it is a bar graph and a line graph. So you can grab the underlying data from that bar graph and that line graph, and you can do data profiling if you choose to. And you can also do data observability. So it will learn, in each of these cases, it learns about the data that it's being presented. And over the course of time, it can compare the profiles to see if there are deltas in the profiles or upper and lower bounds in the case of data observability. So you get some information that's going to tell you that, okay, in the case of profiling, I've profiled a lot of different metrics. In this particular case, the mean has begun to change compared to the average. So that is potentially an anomaly and can help identify that there's a problem in the report data that you're using based upon the data from prior runs. It also gives you the ability to do data observability based upon you setting up the upper and lower bounds of the metrics that you want to observe. And if as it continues to learn and it continues to run those reports and get that information, it can tell you that, hey, all of a sudden things are a little bit outside the bounds, and therefore you want to may take corrective action in the case of the red dots here. So the customer objective in this particular case was to really find anomalies in the reporting data without having to write a large number of rules. They had a large volume of data and a relatively small staff, and they used the data profiling and the anomaly detection through observability to find some of those things in a much quicker way than having to write the actual data quality rules. So with that, we believe that in order to have trusted data in your analytics platform, you have to have data that is tested throughout the entire data journey. So from the point of ingestion, doing data profiling, doing data quality rules to make sure that the data coming in is formed properly, monitoring your production applications to make sure that that data is accurate to begin with. And then if you choose, you can monitor your data warehouse application to make sure that the scores of the data that you've applied the rules to are of the right values and such. And then finally, as you do ETL movement, you do your migrations, your transformations and enrichments, that process needs to be addressed and tested as well. And then finally, we just talked about the BI validation and the types of automated tests you can run to make sure that there aren't anomalies and little gremlins creeping into your dashboards and reports. One final thing before I stop is in cloud data warehouse migrations. Again, we see a lot of that where people are asking, hey, I'm moving from SQL Server to Snowflake in the cloud. I'm keeping my Tableau environment. So what should I do? How should I test? Well, we do the migration testing to make sure that when you move SQL to Snowflake, it was done properly. We also make sure that your ETL processes are producing the same results, both from your legacy to now your modern cloud data warehouse. But a lot of times people also focus on their Tableau environment and the reports and the information they're getting out of their on-prem or the legacy applications. I want to compare those to the reports and dashboards that I'm now getting from my Snowflake or my cloud data warehouse. And again, we provide all of that capability. And those are the tests that our clients have come to us and asked us to help develop and help them with all of the things that they need in migration or just simply the testing of the data pipeline. I hope that helps. Think at this point, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thanks, David. From a Tableau perspective, because this is very Tableau centric group, the applicability of what you were showing is really, really great, especially when we're talking about upgrading between versions of Tableau. When it comes to telling users or developers exactly what might need to be fixed or exactly what might need to be looked at, the highlighting of the differences was something that was really quite nice. But what kind of output is there in this setting to help the developer along the path of figuring out what needs to be fixed?
Okay, no, that's a very good question, and it depends upon what you're testing for, right? So if you're testing at the graphical level in regression, then that's one way is to look at the graphics and do that comparison. You can also grab the underlying data, and if you grab the underlying data, we do a data comparison at that point, and it will give you, hey, out of these two reports that should be consuming the same data, there's a 40% match in the data. There's duplicates in source A. There's nulls in source B. And there's a lot of information that we do after the comparison to show what was in A, what was in B, where are the rows that matched, even though the row, the key matched, there are data elements in that row that didn't match between the source and the target. So we provide all kinds of information along those lines. And then if you're doing other kinds of tests, you can actually create your own custom type reports and using our technology, but also probably even more important is everything that we capture is exposed, and you can write Tableau reports against our repository, and you can virtually design any kind of report that you need to help the developers know what they might need to look at, what they might need to fix.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hopefully that helps. Okay. Well, I appreciate your time, and hopefully that was helpful. And I think we'll turn it back to you, Ryan and Sherry.
Hey, thank you, David. So I want to ask if anyone brings any Tableau question to the session that you're looking for a solution. If not, we will have a Kahoot game and then we will end. Shashank, do you like to share your QR code for the game?
Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen. Let me know once you guys can see the screen. Yeah. So this is the game thing for the Kahoot, and you guys can scan the QR code. So once you scan the QR code, it will ask to write your nickname there. So you guys can write your full name or email ID, so it will be easy to see who is the winner. And in the end of the game, we'll be sending a gift card to them, so it will be easy for us to segregate them.
So you can either scan the QR code or type game pane as you log into Kahoot.
Let me know if you guys have any questions while logging into the game.
Ryan, you can join the game if you want. Me and Shashank, we designed the game, so I won't join, but yeah, feel free to join if you want to participate.
All right, I'm hopping in.
Anyone else in the process of joining? If not, we can get started.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the first question is, what is the Tableau mascot? So we have several options. So we got like 3 right answers. And moving to the next one. So we can see the scoreboard. The Ryan is leading, followed by Nishi and then Abhi. So the next question is, what is the purpose of ask data in Tableau? Oh, that's nice. We got like 5 correct answer and 1 answer. It allows user to request data from database, which is wrong. So the correct answer is the Tableau Ask Data enables users to ask questions about their data in natural language. Moving to the next one. We can see Ryan is still leading and Nishi is giving competition for Ryan, I feel. So we can join a maximum of dash tables in Tableau. Yeah, the correct answer is 32. The next question is true or false. So the data blending in Tableau is used when you need to join tables within the same data source. So is it true or false? Yeah, it is false. Going to next. So you have been given a data set with a messy data. So what Tableau feature should you use to clean and transform the data easily? Is data grooming, data wizard, data prep, or data magic? Yeah, everyone answered the correct. Everyone selected the correct answer, which is data prep. Moving to the next one. So which of the following is a method of sharing Tableau visualizations with others? You have an option of exporting visualization to image files. Oh yeah, it was pretty quick. The answer is all of the above. So in Tableau, the Show Me feature provides quick recommendations for chart types based on your data, which is true or false. Yep, if it is true. You can see in the scoreboard, the Abhi is leading, followed by Nishi. Then the third is Priyanka. So moving to the next question. In Tableau, which chart type is often used to visualize trends over time? Yep, the correct answer is line chart. Moving to the next one. So what is a floating element in a Tableau dashboards? So the correct answer is an element that hovers over other elements is the correct one. So and the last question is puzzle, where you need to organize the answers in correct order manner. So the question is arrange the following steps to create Tableau visualization in the correct order. You can drag to the correct order. You can select the option, you can drag it. Yep. The correct order is first connect to a data source, followed by create calculated field, Next, build the view by dragging dimensions and measures, then formatting the visualization. Yeah, so this complete the Kahoot game of today's Tableau User Group. The third place goes to Priyanka, and the second goes to Rupesh, and the first goes to Ryan. Oh, that's great.
That was a close game.
Nice. For the top 3 winners, if you can leave your email address that you wish a gift card to be delivered to before you leave, please do so in the chat. But that's all from our agenda for today. I wish everyone have a wonderful evening. Thank you for your time.
The fourth place person can go ahead and leave their email in the chat.
Okay. Oh, who's the fourth place?
If you want to call yourself out, you can do that.
I think he might leave already.
Yeah, maybe.
But I did have his email address, so I can reach out later.
Okay, great.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Have a good night.